Guys, the very first step in a probate real estate sale is to run a preliminary title report. And so in this video, I'm going to break it down what has actually happened with me with real case studies and show you the importance of getting the research done early in the process. And if you stay all the way to the end of the video, I'm going to be able to show you how to select the best title officer for your transaction. As always, if you like my content, please comment below with any questions. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let's dig into it. So, in a probate real estate sale, there are several different steps that an attorney is going to advise you on, but when it comes to the actual piece of real estate being liquidated by the estate, the very first step you need to do is run a preliminary title report. Now, a lot of times the attorney helping you through this process is going to do that themselves. But as a real estate professional, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to my title company, give them the address, and I'm going to do several different things. First thing I'm going to do is run an RPR report, which is a private database that realtors have access to that give you all the information about the property. It runs an automated valuation model range. It's going to run comps, and it's also going to look up the legal description and all of the descriptors that are in past listings that deal with the property if available. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run a listing kit from a title company. This is going to be all of the copies of the recorded documents if they have them, as well as a lot of the information that is in the RPR report. Now, if this is a manufactured home, I'm also going to run what we call a manufactured ownership document, which is essentially going to be the state's document that is the title for that specific manufactured home. And that's going to have a serial number, a HUD number, a make, model, square footage, the name, and the security interest holder. Then I'm going to reach out to my preferred probate title company and I'm going to ask them for a courtesy preliminary title report to be started on your piece of probate real estate. The reason for that is we're trying to look for several things. The first thing we're trying to look for is what is the main mortgage against that property, if any. Second thing we're looking for is any second position liens against that property, which could be a refinance, a HELOC, it could be a home equity line, it could have been a heating and cooling company that stacked a lien against the property until they're paid. Next thing we're looking for is any mechanics liens against the property. That's going to be a contractor that has liened the property, and also in all of this, Uncle Sam's liens against the property. So taxes or judgments or anything that is government related liened against the property. And what we're trying to figure out in all of this is what your true net to seller is in the transaction. Meaning this, if we sell for X amount of dollars and we pay off all of these liens, what are you going to be left with? The estate that is going to move on to final distribution. And when the piece of real estate is the biggest piece of assets in this estate, we want to make sure we have a relatively accurate number. The reason for that is there's closing costs, realtor fees, and all of the concessions that may happen through the real estate transaction. And if we don't have a clear understanding of what you're making potentially in projection, it doesn't allow us to have the best strategic pricing strategy, and it also doesn't give us the best research to figure out how we want to negotiate this transaction. Is it an as-is sale off market? Is it our ability to drop the price X amount of dollars throughout the listing process to motivate people to purchase? We just want to make sure that we're in a situation where we're not upside down on the house. Also, we want to make sure that we can actually sign a listing agreement with you and that you have enough equity to pay off the real estate agent's commissions in the process and the mortgages and liens and taxes. Now, let me bring up a few case studies or examples that have happened through me through this process. First thing is state taxes or fees or any type of judgment against the property. I've run preliminary title reports that looked clean, but as the transaction had moved forward, we actually discovered that there was back taxes that was due to a spouse who had passed away before the actual spouse that had a probate started, meaning the previous wife or husband had passed away, but they never did probate. And there was actually taxes associated that were not paid. So the title company is reporting to the state, hey, we have a probate situation here. Are there any taxes that the state is owed or the local jurisdictions? Also, that could be federally. But what I'm trying to tell you is that we run the preliminary title report and none of that came up, right? None of it. It came out in the end. And so we want to make sure that there's enough equity cushion in there so that that situation can be reconciled. And guys, in this specific example, we came all the way down to closing. You know how much money was left for the estate? $12,000. Yes, one price reduction away from being upside down and bankrupting the estate on a potential bad situation where there's not enough equity to sell the property, or they're going to have to do an off-market sale and hope that an investor comes in with cash. But these undiscovered liens against the property literally sucked the account down to $12,000 in equity that we moved on to final distribution. Next example that's happened. I've worked with a customer who needed an advancement of their inheritance, and they needed specifically a private money loan in order to get a few of the estate operations done because they had no money out of pocket. Meaning they had to borrow money in order to facilitate the estate's operational plan in order to get it to final distribution. And in all of that, the liens that were recorded against the property were not for an assignment, meaning the liens, they put a lien against the property, but it should have been just an assignment of the estate's final distribution. And so what happened is that the sale of the property was necessary to remove the liens. And if we did not sell that property and remove those liens, there was no way for the estate to ever get to final distribution. So circumstances like this are extremely complex, and that's why you need an attorney to help you through the process. And that's also why you need an attorney to have a relationship with so that you can be very transparent in what you're going to do. Hey, I don't have the money to personally fund any of this operational plan, so I'm going to need to borrow money. Is that okay? What are the consequences or eventual actions that are going to lead to consequences in this situation in terms of financial and distribution problems? And so in all of that case study, what we realized is that you have to be very transparent with the attorney that is helping you manage the probate and what you need to do in terms of liquidity. And also, when it comes to the preliminary title report again, there was a second lien put against this property behind the one we saw after we ran the preliminary title report. So once again, the net to seller analysis was incorrect. We did not have a clear and present understanding of what liens were against that property because the person that was running the estate put a second lien on that property after we ran the preliminary title report. So guys, you can see in all of these situations that the preliminary title report is our pulse check. It's our benchmark. We need to see where things are. It allows the real estate agent to make a smart decision if they move forward with you because there's enough anticipated equity in order to pay off all liens, debts, and get it to final distribution once our job as the real estate agent is done. Now, what you need to understand about title reports. Title reports are also going to tell you things like, are there any recorded easements against that property? And that's going to be a situation in which, for example, a driveway moving through the property that somebody may not be too keen on or not be very marketable to when you list that property. Also, things like utility easements, which could be a massive pipeline going through the property or power line. Also, easements could be recorded or an agreement with a neighbor who had built a house behind you where you're allowing a driveway or access through the property, and they're ultimately going to inherit that easement if a new purchaser buys the property. So easements and equity position, lien position is super important to being able to market a real estate piece of property, because if they don't know about it until they're sucked into the transaction, there's a lot of times they're going to back out. So running that preliminary title report actually gives you the ammunition to write a full disclosure situation, meaning disclosing to potential any buyers, writing marketing copy that addresses these issues up front so people are aware of what is next and what's going to happen if they do move forward with the transaction. The last thing you want to do is pull a buyer into a transaction and say, oh, oops, actually, we don't have any equity, so we can't even close on the contract. So it's going to be a breach of contract. Also, by the way, there's all these easements and issues with the preliminary title report that we should have told you up front, but we just kept it to our chest, and now you're finding out about this. So it subjects yourself to potential issues, either legal or situations where you're not going to be able to close the property. Now, in all of this, full disclosure, please always reach out to a legal representative. This is general information purposes only for you to understand how a preliminary title report directly impacts the sale of a piece of real estate. And we want to make sure in all of this, your questions are answered. So if there's any specific questions that came up that I did not cover, please comment below. If you're looking for a great probate attorney, please schedule a Calendly in the links up below the video. I can refer you to somebody in any state. And if you need a real estate agent that is a probate expert in your local market, please also schedule a Calendly so we can get on a call and I can help you through this process. The last thing we want is somebody to do this. Go get a death certificate, go to an attorney, file the affidavit, and then start down this road with a real estate professional who is not giving you this information, is not warning you that they need to run a preliminary title report, and they also need to fact check every piece of this process to make sure there's no hidden wild cards that are going to divert the problem or divert the solution or project that are going to create a problem. And all of this, guys, our job as a real estate professional is to make sure it stays on track. We've done our due diligence, we've researched, we've worked with you through the process, and it is seamless from A to Z. What we don't want is wild cards or curveballs that are going to ultimately put you at risk or in liability and ultimately cause an issue with a buyer that's potentially buying your property. So thank you so much. My name is Dan Gandee, and we're also helping people out there get great advice when it comes to referring you to estate planning attorneys and probate professionals who can help get the property up to speed and on the market. Thanks so much. If you have any questions, reach out to me.